Welcome to If This Bar Could Talk, a podcast about bartenders and the stories they have to tell, as well as the storied history of cocktails, spirits, and bars. I'm Blair Beavers, and here's your host, Leanne Sims.
Welcome, listeners. We're back at the Sunny 95 studio with our producer, Greg Hansberry, and our guests tonight are Letha and Sang, the two of the three founders of Service, a relief organization for hospitality workers. Matt couldn't be here. I assume he's making the world's best burger somewhere, right? But I'm so glad you guys came in. You've got a lot going on, and I want to talk about everything. And let's start where you started. So spring of 2020, we all know what happened. Mm-hmm. Governor DeWine said everything must shut down. The three of you are restaurant owners, and you could have curled up in a ball and gotten under the covers, or you could have circled the wagons around your own businesses and said, each man for himself. But you didn't do that. You circled the wagons around the entire industry, and you started feeding people and giving people money. What motivated you to do that in such a difficult time personally?
Well, first off, I want to say I think we did a little bit of all those things. And then at some point, you kind of have to get up. And
Everyone curled up in a ball.
Everybody curled up for a minute.
I think I doubled over and screamed really loud. We might be missing a few windows.
Yeah. It was, I think back to that time, and it was just kind of like fast and furious. But, I think the universe kind of brings people together different ways. And the three of us, I know I had not had a whole lot of interaction with Sang. And I was working with Matt, getting Preston's pulled together. And, it just, I think we're doers. And so everything just kind of fell into place. I mean, I think the nice thing about Service is that we all kind of own a different piece of it, which made the lift not so heavy when you say,
Yeah.
So then you started with feeding people.
Yeah, so it was that moment, right? Do you wring your hands and wait for somebody else to do something about it, or do you roll up your sleeves and get to work? Clearly, we have found out in the last few years that we just rip the sleeves off and get to work because, rolling up takes too much time. And we did. It was, so much of it was just out of like gut reactions and instinct. And at that point, Matt and I knew how to do one thing. We cook. So we're like, well, let's start there. Let's start cooking. And we did. We started by feeding service industry workers and their families. And a little bit beyond that, because we didn't actually ask for any proof. We just fed people. And we started with 200 meals a day for the first 8 weeks of the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were working out of the table at that time? Or?
So we kind of just got the network together.
Oh.
It's amazing how deep roots run when you've been in business here over the years. ECDI has the food fort, and they... all the food trucks had stopped working then too, so we were able to use their kitchen at that point because we were cooking on a mass scale. And we served the food out of the table, Ambrose and Eve and Ace of Cups for a while. There were a couple of other bars up and down High Street that helped out. The 2s, 3s guys, Scott helped us out too.
That was very helpful. I think Dough Mama opened for a short stint.
So we wanted to make sure that it was accessible locations for pickups for service industry members.
So when you started, did you realize how big this would become?
Oh, absolutely not. People say to me all the time, things that spring up out of like chaotic moments don't last. And so, it was very chaotic, thinking back now with, I was trying to make sure Bake Me Happy was good and all the staff, and Sang was dealing with the table, and and then we're trying to make sure we're taking care of ourselves too and our families, and thinking about folks just not having access to anything no funds, no food. That's not easy to, for, I would hope as fellow human beings that would, move all of us to do something extraordinary. And so, put the three of us putting together the skills and the gifts that we have. I don't cook, I don't bake, but I know how to, I can, put together a nonprofit.
She can organize a small army is what she's saying.
Yeah, and so all of us together, we were able to get that done. And there was a point, there did become a point where we were like, okay, what are we gonna do with this now? Because the meals had kind of slowed down, but then we had all this cash. So then we just started doing these cash grants to people. And we had a system. That was what I think has allowed us to kind of grow. It wasn't some software program. It was homegrown. We had this Google document. We had everyone's information. Matt and Sang would camp out at a coffee shop. They had a letter. It explained where to meet us, blah, blah. And because we had such good organization, I think it made it easy for the commissioners when they came to us. We could show them proof. We have we can account for every penny you've given us, and not just them, but the community in general. I would say we are 60% of like where we actually want to be, which is not a bad spot to be in.
No.
I want to open a culinary school. You know what I mean? I think we're on our way there. So
very cool. Very cool. We'll talk about where you're going, but tell me about how did the county or state or how did they get involved?
So in those moments, because our own businesses had shut down, and being a chef, I was trying to pick up gigs here and there, doing a lot of private dinners. And one of the people, a couple that had been displaced during COVID, had asked for a space to work out of at the table. And they had started Charmy's, their restaurant, at the table. And when it came time for their citizenship, when they got their citizenship, they asked me to do the food for them. So I was at their home cooking for their citizenship, and the place was full of lawyers and attorneys and other people that had helped them through their citizenship process because they were refugees from Iran. So I was in this room full of people I didn't know, some of whom knew the table, cooking for them. And Chris Long, who works with the commissioners, happened to ask me, like, hey, what are you doing? What are your plans? I'm like, I don't know you, but I plan to keep cooking and, running service as long as I can. And it was very soon after that she invited me over for dinner. And again, I'm just like, it's COVID. Somebody invited me for dinner. Great, social outing. And she put this idea in front of us about, would you like to take over the cafeteria at the county courthouse?
Okay. And Cafe Overlook was born.
And Cafe Overlook was born from that.
Tell our listeners what Cafe Overlook is.
Cafe Overlook is a workforce development program in the Franklin County Courthouse that provides training and financial stability for people trying to overcome all sorts of barriers, whether they're returning citizens or, somebody that's trying to learn a new skill, or, at that point it was still rolling off COVID, people that had just been out of work for a while and needed something new.
Very cool. What a great program.
Thank you.
And the food is excellent too. I'm there a lot. Not because I'm an offender, but for other reasons. But the food is really wonderful. And how do you get referrals to get people into Cafe Overlook to get trained?
So we partner with a nonprofit social service agency called ARCH, Accompanying Restored Citizens with Hope.
Returning citizens with hope.
Correct. And they have just feelers out for ORW, which is the women's prison. the jail system here. They have some existing programming, and we've just kind of been able to plug into their like referrals. And so Job and Family Services refers folks who have an interest in food. They refer folks. So we have a waiting list of a couple hundred people, about 170,
No kidding.
160, 70 people. We can only take a small number at a time. But we bring folks in cohorts of around 10 at this point. The cafe can only hold 30 staff at a time. And so everybody's in like a different phase of the program. But ideally, you spend time there about 6 months, and then we place you into jobs in the restaurant community or hospitality industry. Because some folks go to the Hilton, so it's we were not social workers, like I was saying this morning. We went from restaurant tours to social workers overnight. It's running really well. It has not killed us yet, but it's hard. It's hard work.
That's quite a challenge because you're working with people who probably or maybe didn't have a job before, didn't have the skills, didn't have the soft skills, the hard skills.
Well, I'll tell you what they had. We only take people who have an interest in food.
Okay.
And so I think there's there's a gamut of people out there who were cooking at home or, running a restaurant off their front porch, or maybe they worked in the prison kitchen for years. We want to bring them in, give them some formal training. Let's start with how to hold a knife, actually, and then kind of build on what they have, then place them out. So then, like, people who leave us and go out, at least folks know and understand that they have had some training prior before coming, to work at their facility or kitchen or, organization.
Nice.
But you're right. A majority of them did not have work experience, either with large gaps, sometimes 18 years, or with, short stints because of other instabilities in their lives that prevented them from being a productive laborer, right? So there are people that you see their resumes and they've jumped jobs a lot. Oh, I lasted here 3 months. Oh, I worked here for 2 weeks. With such a disassociation, like not realizing that that's really not something you should brag about.
Right.
But to them it was like, oh, look, I've had so many jobs. Because nobody taught them what it meant to go to work or to be a loyal employee, or, how longevity might help rental prospects or being able to buy a house or, all the other things that it filters into. So it's those soft skills, the foundations of what it means to go to work that are missing for a lot of folk.
Yeah. Wow. It's so amazing. And I mean, we know studies have shown that having a job improves everything about your life, your self-esteem, and then it just goes on from there. It makes people better citizens.
We remove barriers, a number of different barriers: childcare, transportation, uniforms, mental health services, housing. So if all those are being addressed, it increases the chances of someone's success.
Right.
You've just got to have somebody who has the bandwidth to dig into that and figure out where the holes are. Let's plug the holes. And then there's the soft skills training too.
And I think I've learned in our time doing this that it is almost a privilege to say, just go get a job, right? Because there are so many barriers that we will never probably encounter that they deal with. Like if you don't have transportation and you have to get on the bus line, and we've had employees that have traveled 2 hours to get to the courthouse to work. So they leave at 4 a.m. to get on, all of their
Multiple
buses to get to work. And
Isn't
if you
that
don't
crazy?
have consistent childcare and you're depending on some sort of kinder care service that, well, there's an outbreak and we're going to shut it down. Oh, somebody has the sniffles and you got to take your baby home. We think they have a fever. Where are you taking your child to if everybody in the home works? Somebody
Right.
is losing a paycheck somewhere. And now if you have multiple children, if one gets sick, chances are the other one's going to get sick the next day. So there's so many like barriers that we don't think about because we might have extended families. We might have that extra income to hire a babysitter or a nanny or, have friends we can count on. Not everybody has those systems in place.
Support systems, yeah.
It really feels at this point like a privileged notion to be like, just get to work or just go to work or just get a job, because come to realize it's really not that simple.
Is there also an effort within service to bring together the service industry community to give their thoughts on what needs to change and what we can do to help, and then also to educate the public about the cost of things per se?
Yeah, so service has put together a roundtable. We've had a couple of them now, and it brings together service industry workers, owners alike, and people affiliated with the service industry in any format, whether you're writing about food or are a food vendor, anybody that's affected, any of the stakeholders in this industry, to come do a quarterly talk about what it is that's affecting us the most right now and how do we overcome those hurdles together, because especially for independent restaurants and for a small-time server, it's not something that you can take care of in isolation. We need the village to come together to deal with some of these bigger issues. And along with that comes customer education, to be able to empower the service industry as a whole to be able to talk about the issues and not feel like, oh my gosh, if I say something about tips or pricing, people are going to stop coming to my restaurant because it's not on the correct political side. So service is trying to take on the weight of that and be the voice of it, so nobody gets singled out in this conversation and everybody has a safe space to talk about their issues.
That's great. And you also advocate for industry workers, don't you?
We do. We, so as service kind of grows and has these tentacles, we walk this fine line between having been business owners or current business owners, but then also understanding that our businesses wouldn't be as successful as they are without, great coworkers and great staff, and advocating for them, because there's a restaurant association, but they tend to deal with the owners. Who is the voice of the employee? And so, we want to have a well-rounded, real well-rounded representation of the industry, and that the employee is a huge piece of that. We think that paying people the most you can pay people, and it's not to say that as an owner, hey, I'm just going to give up all my profit, but it is saying, hey, if you're right here alongside me working, let's share in the goodness that we get. So the goal is to engage more employees, engage more employers, engage more employees, and begin to kind of build a hospitality infrastructure that is not it's very divided right now. And that's not good for anyone involved.
No.
I think, part of empowering service industry workers isn't just about telling them like what they should go fight for, right? You don't just like hand them a flag and go, here you go, now you're empowered, like go march for your beliefs. It's also about educating them so they realize that just because this person owns the restaurant you work at doesn't mean they're rolling out in their Bugatti going down their 5-mile driveway to their mansion. It is hard work, and it is not a very profitable business to be in. So it's not just about like screaming about like, I want to be paid more or I want benefits, but it's about understanding the business as a whole. If this is a career you have chosen, then let's professionalize this career. Let's educate people on both ends of the spectrum. In this case, all three sides, because we have the customer too. But everybody needs to have this conversation together. It's not just about empowering one party to go fight against the other. It's so that we can come together and make this a professional environment where we don't have people groveling for work and being easily replaced and, like, oh, you don't want to work here anymore? Like the $12 isn't enough for you? Well, get out of here. I'll find somebody else. Like, you need to build loyalty and you need to educate the next generation of restaurateurs.
That was good, saying that was good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I don't know about you guys, but the one thing that really pisses me off is when people insinuate that working in the service industry is not a real job,
Right.
Particularly with bartenders. There's people are like, when are they going to get a real job? That makes me so angry. They obviously don't know any bartenders because they're very educated. They're choosing that craft, and it is a craft. It's a profession.
Yes.
And you guys are working to change that as well, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think the best way to quell that is to say to someone, well, then have you ever spent any time, working as a bartender or server or line cook?
A dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
Man, this is the toughest job in the industry.
Yeah.
You don't even want to do your dishes at home. Now imagine, working in 8-10 hour shifts where you're just like knee deep in dishwater.
I spent my first couple of years at Bake Me Happy. That's all I did was the dishes.
Right.
Because it kept the flow. And, and if we keep it moving, keep it flowing, production was better. So, I have a completely different respect for just all of it in general.
That was my first job as a 16-year-old, washing dishes.
Washing dishes, yeah. Builds character.
Yeah.
I think it builds character.
Yeah, but it's also a career. It's not just a first job for a teenager.
Right, yeah.
So,
you can't just stick somebody on the dish pit.
no, that's true.
No, it's got to be the right
There's got to
person.
there's some logical, functioning or processing that has to take place. And so
You have to be very organized
Yeah.
and have great time management and be aware of everything that's going on around you
and I
to
just
be a
wish,
successful dishwasher, right?
yeah. And I just wish that people would just stop and think before they, would say or make comments like that.
It's in the news a lot right now. Recently, California increased their minimum wage, and it was for restaurants. What was it? 60. If you had 60 franchise
Franchises
store,
are over, correct.
you had to increase. Well, if you have that many stores,
You're doing okay.
yeah, you're doing all right. Why not share the wealth? And if you pay people more, they're going to be happier. They're going to stay. They're going to do a better job. So I feel like those people who are bitching about paying a little more right now are going to be very happy later on.
Listen, it's California. If you're not paying somebody $15 an hour, they're not making it.
They're
No,
living
they
in their
can't even
car.
be-
They're living in
Well,
their
they probably
car.
can't even have a car. 'Cause-
Well,
Yeah.
I do understand, as having been a small business owner, I do understand that it's not as easy as it sounds, right? To say that, okay, well, I'm going to give everybody's getting bumped to $15 an hour or $18 or whatever, the
But if you
current
got
market
60
price is.
franchises,
Yeah.
If you've got 60 franchises, I'm not even talking to you.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
This conversation is not for you. Just do better in life.
yeah.
Be kind. You didn't build those 60 franchises if it wasn't on the backs of your employees.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
But for a small business owner, that's what we're compared to, right? They see those things in the news, and nobody stops to think that, well, I only have one restaurant. I don't have 60 plus franchises.
Right.
So
Right.
I shouldn't be held accountable in the same way.
Right.
But there isn't that differentiation. Nobody's talking about the single guy. All the news, the marketing, the PR agencies are talking about the people that have the 60 franchises.
Right.
They're not talking about Joe Schmo with one restaurant that's really struggling to make, you know, the $15 an hour for his employees that he probably really wants to, more than the guy that has the 60 franchises,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Like, I want to pay my people better because I can't afford the turnover.
Right.
Turnover is so much more expensive for a restaurant,
Right.
you know, but people don't differentiate. They're just like, well, he's doing it, so why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you paying your employees more? You know, so there is a huge education component that's missing. There have to be a lot more conversations around that. There is, you know, Joe Schmo is also paying 8-10 times what a man with 60 franchises is paying for the same product.
Yeah, and I think that's across all industries. Maybe not all, but probably
Majority.
close to all. Because
course.
I know, you know, with me as a business owner, a small business, I was competing for employees from hospitals, you know, where they get amazing benefits and they can pay more because they can afford to, and I'm just one person. So that's the challenge too, is, you know, competing with the big guys and still being able to keep your employees. So, but I think it's doable. I think everybody should get a fair wage, and I think if we have to pay a little more for our food, I think people should be okay with that. And I noticed we were at dinner last night, and on the bottom of the menu it said a 22% service charge is going to be added to your bill to share with our employees. And
The entire staff.
yeah, and so the only thing that I was confused about, we had a debate at the table because I have this fear of under tipping. So I'm like, so does that mean we still tip 30% on top of that, or do we just add like 8% more, or what do we do in that situation? So that's where I get confused.
Oh, for sure.
Because I don't want anybody to like say, you know, Leanne Sims, she's a cheap ass.
We talk about it all the time. There she comes again.
I would want to add, everyone, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the world who cook really well, and they think, hey, I'm going to open a restaurant. If they do it the way it should be done, just like any other business, you have pro forma. So you know, if I pay my staff, like my labor should run this much. My cost of goods should run this much because my meals cost this much, and blah, 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 all the things. You really shouldn't bank on, I only have to pay people $7 an hour plus
That's a very
tips.
good point.
You know what I mean? So it is also, you know, professionalizing. Or, you know, some people go into business and, you know, they own 60 franchises. It's very much driven by performas and budgets and contracts. And then some folks are just like, I make a mean fish curry.
I do.
I make a mean fish curry, and, you know, I want to do this. And so I'm just going to jump in and start doing it. And, you know, I think these people with 60 franchises, them resisting that is kind of out of greed. These folks, they're just not making ends meet. They're just probably not making enough. And like, how do we reach those folks to help them not be in that type of situation?
Yeah, well said. Well said. All right, so you guys do a lot of work on grants, right? Grant writing to get grants, but you need more money than just the grant money that you get. And so tell us about the event that you have planned for May 16th.
Yes.
The gala. I mean, how many people can say, I'm having a gala? That's something I never thought would come out of my mouth.
There's a couple of us in this
There's
room.
a couple of us in this room, yes. We wouldn't be having a gala if Leanne wasn't like, I'll spearhead
If
the
it
gala.
wasn't for Leanne, I don't know if this gala would be coming together
We
as
talk
well
about
as it
that.
has.
Of course you would. Of course you
No,
would.
for real,
Yeah.
seriously.
This would still be in the planning stages. We're like, if somebody would just spearhead this. Anyway, first annual gala for service. It is to benefit hospitality workers. We're really, really excited. It is May 16th at the Highline Car House. Tickets are available. Very few, but they're available. We are doing this to show gratitude for hospitality workers. I mean, this is a big shout out and thank you to all independent restaurateurs in Columbus and the workforce behind them, the people that make all of this possible. And it is to raise awareness about service and the work that we do because, unless somebody's out there shouting and screaming and making themselves heard, nothing happens. So, we want people to know we're here, more so the service industry workers. We want them to know we're here and we're here for them. So this is a celebration of all of those things. But to make those things happen, just as in any other business, to provide education, to provide financial relief, to help people plan a better course for their life, we require funding. And this is, one of the many things we're doing to keep increasing our visibility and funding opportunities for hospitality workers.
Yeah, we see value in the work that we do, and we hope that the community sees value in the work that we do. We touch a lot of lives, and I don't think we realize the gravity of the work that we do. But we hope that people see the value and want to contribute, whether they donate or whether they donate through the website or they buy a ticket or they mail or send in a check, buy a t-shirt. There's lots of ways for people to give, and so this is a way for us to continue the work we're doing in addition to the future things, endeavors we want to take on.
And this is just an annual thing. You can give all year long, and we hope that people give all year long. I wanted to give a shout out to the Highline because they have been very generous.
Amazing.
Very generous and very nice to work with.
Oh, good.
And it's going to be a great event. We have some surprise. I don't want to give too much away because I want people to buy tickets and come to see. But it's going to be really, really fun. We're going to have awards, a silent auction, a fabulous dinner. We're going to have some local vendors doing some appetizers and desserts and coffee.
Do we have a band?
No, we have a DJ.
We have a DJ?
DJs, our bands cost a lot more.
Okay.
So.
If somebody wants to sponsor a band
I know,
for
we're on a
next
budget.
year,
We're on a budget.
we will be putting that plan together for you.
There you go.
It would be fun to have a little music out on the patio, though, wouldn't it? Maybe we could come up with something.
You know what?
What if it's cello?
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Growth. It's all about growth.
Right.
Growth. Yes,
right.
yes.
But it's going to be a fun event. And even if you can't come, I hope that you can donate, listeners, and tell all your friends to donate as well. Every little bit counts. Like if you can only donate $25, that's perfectly all right.
If you can do $10 a month, I sound like an NPR drive right now. I was like, $5 a month. Think about what that could do for
glass?
somebody
A
else.
pint glass? Or they were calling it a waist bag or something. I was like, you mean a fanny pack? It's a fanny pack.
Well, I don't know.
And I want it, so let me
Call
call
it
it.
what it is.
And there will be gift bags with some great items inside. So
In fanny packs?
no fanny
No.
packs.
Fanny pack.
Waist
Bags.
bags? No waist bags.
No waist bags.
They are bags, but not waste bags.
Next year.
Next year.
Yes.
Okay, so where is service going from here? What are you going to do next?
Ooh.
We are working on the Service Innovation Kitchen, which is going to be a workforce development program of sorts, a culinary school to speak for existing service industry members. We're looking to grow the talent that already exists within Columbus and try not to lose some of our talent to bigger cities. We see restaurateurs struggle a lot right now with trying to bring talent into Columbus, but it's already here. It just needs to be nurtured. Not everyone can afford to go to a culinary school. Not everyone can afford to go take business classes if they want to go into management. So we will do that as a workforce development program. They will come in, work for the restaurant, and get paid a fair wage. and be given the skills. We will offer master classes if somebody is a bartender.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, if somebody's a bartender that wants to be a sommelier, there'll be somebody coming in and training them.
Nice.
You've been working as a line cook, but you have no skills in butchery or fishmongering or, taking the next steps to become a sous or an executive chef. Or maybe you've done all of it and you want to go into bar and restaurant management. We're going to hone all of those skills for people, hopefully partner with other restaurants outside of Columbus and send them on stage shifts so they can learn from other chefs too and bring that knowledge back to Columbus and strengthen our restaurant or hospitality industry as a whole from bottom up.
Is there a model for this anywhere in the country? Or you guys just making it up as you go along?
No, there's a model. There's a couple of programs. I think there's one in Boston.
There's parts and pieces. I
Parts
don't
and
think
pieces,
as holistically with providing the same wraparound services as we give at Cafe Overlook, making sure all of their needs are met. So there are people, there's obviously culinary schools, there is workforce development programs, but I don't think there's program yet that I know of. I mean, they might be out there. I just haven't heard of them yet that are doing
We
it
need Matt
holistically.
here. Matt is our resident researcher of programs.
That's true. That's true. So part of this will also be an incubator for up and coming restaurateurs that might have a concept that is ready to go. We'll be able to give them some space to come in and work through their menu, their business plan, their food and labor cost, consult with us, consult with our resources, fine tune their product before they go out into the market. So we have a little more sustainability with successful restaurants as opposed to seeing restaurants disappear within the first couple of years because they didn't go in with the correct foundation.
And so anybody can
Anybody
be a
can.
part. Okay, so
Anybody
I
can.
can come in and learn how to do
Yes.
the restaurant stuff
Y-
and just
yes,
pay you like a
can.
tuition and okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that we'll have a lot of different programs. For now, we're just going to start with actually paying people to come work, and then as we get our feet under us, we can keep tacking on the plethora of programs we already have filed away in our brains.
And so, some of this is collaboration. So like Otterbein University, we've been working with them on the curriculum and, formalizing it so that, at some point there will be credits that could be, applied to the programming that we're going to be doing. So
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah,
That's great.
It's coming along.
Huh.
It's coming along.
Very cool. That's so amazing what you guys have done. Is there anything else that we should know about service? Or you think we covered it all?
I
Service
think
is
so.
cool.
Yeah, service is cool. I think every high school should offer one semester in some sort of service industry
Yes.
work.
Agreed.
Yes.
I think it just makes for a better human.
Yes.
And we deal with that educational piece a lot better if we were doing it when kids were still young, right?
For sure.
So-
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Columbus and Central Ohio owe you guys a great deal of debt. Just so much gratitude that we have for you. Like, you have full-time jobs, you guys are busy, and yet you're doing this too. And it's amazing. And thank you.
Well, and I just want to piggyback off of that. The two of you have been great supporters as well. Just kind of
100%.
silently back there. You've always included us in your, your fundraisers and things like that. I hope you know that we see and appreciate what
Are you
you've done
taking
for
a
us.
picture of me getting teary-eyed? I can't get out there. No, thank you. That's very nice
Thank
of you.
you.
But
It's
Yeah.
important to us.
yeah, and if everybody did just a little bit about what you guys do, the world would be a better place for sure. So,
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah. You don't even have to send us the money. Just tip your staff better.
Yeah,
It's
Be
a really good
kind
point.
to them.
Really
Make
good
space for them. Ask them how they're doing.
I've said it before. Stop with the 20%. It's old.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for being our guest. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Best of
Thank you
luck
for
to
having us here.
And we hope that the gala, we know the gala is going to be a huge
It's going to be
success.
right.
It's going to be so fun.
All right. Cheers, you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Listeners, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Seabus Craft Cocktail Tour. Visit our website at columbuscraftcocktailtour.com for cocktail tour dates, women and whiskey tastings, special events, merchandise, and if you're looking for a gift for that special person in your life, get them a gift card to our cocktail tour. Thank you to the biographer for our original music. And please remember to drink responsibly and be cocktail curious. Cheers.
This has been a Last Call Productions production.